Hi, everyone. This is the Winter Elemental Magic Summit, and I am Andrea Dombecki from angelfairyhealing.com here with Camilla Blossom, Earth Magic at camillablossom.com. And we are excited to get on here today and share some winter elemental magic. We wanted to really help everyone connect with all of the magical fairy beings of the season and really anchor in that joyous connection. So we have some fun things planned for everybody, and hopefully you will get some boosts of elemental magic and connection in your life from listening to us. Welcome, Camilla.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm so excited. We always have such a great time and lots of good discussions, and healing comes through. I think we both activate each other. So this is beautiful to kind of honor that season. Sometimes they're so busy at the holiday time and in winter, but to really honor, slow down, connect with nature, connect with what gives us more peace and balance.
Definitely. And I love to share that with others because I feel like maybe at least for the last 8 years, there's always at some point in the winter season when it starts that I really connect with the elementals. I call them fairies more, but getting used to like elementals and which is all of the fairy beings, right? The unicorns, the elves, just kind of including all of them. That at some point I always do a ceremony, whether that's a class, some journaling, some art, some altars, ways to really connect and anchor in with the elements of the elementals of the season. I usually connect with the winter fairies, the gnomes, the tomties, the unicorns, and really I bring them in to connect with the magic of the holidays and also to connect with the magic of winter and open my heart to winter. And that includes for me the herbs of winter, the flowers of winter, the trees, the earth energies, and of course the snowflakes and all the ways that nature changes in the winter and the pine cones. And then I also, as an artist, go into my visionary art and maybe crafts, making craft like fairy houses and wreaths and things. So I actually started my little bucket list yesterday, and every year it's a little different, but I definitely wanted to make a Yule wreath this year and connect some, like collect some stuff from nature. Did you start
Beautiful.
any of your elements?
Yeah, I was just showing earlier, I went out across the street, they have holly. And so I collected some yesterday to put around my house. And yeah, it's a season for me to spend time, meditating, doing journeys, going deeper, working with kind of that sacred void, the darkness. I always feel like I'm a night baby because I was born at around midnight. So I feel like the winter is a time to get more in touch with myself, my energy through that darkness, um, that kind of journeying, and kind of looking at projects that I really want to put energy to. So it's a very dreaming creation time for me. And yeah, and this year it's interesting. I know this year is a very powerful year, but I just feel like all the time the gnomes are coming in. Those are the earth elementals, and they work with so many different things. And a lot of people just think they're like the ornaments we put on our tree or on our lawn, right? The statues, and they really are actual beings, elementals, nature spirits of the earth and the lands, and they have a lot of communication and ways that they can support us. And even with my students in classes, like they're showing up a lot for them on their land and helping. And people are often surprised. So it's kind of fun. So there's definitely some gnome energy this year. There's Fairy Queen, always with me, the Fairy Queen and Merlin, and also Gaia. I think this summit to me really represents um, kind of gathering the leaders to discuss and share things. And to me, I feel like we're both voices for the fairy realm and the earth and all these beautiful elementals. So I'm excited to see what comes through as we share, and to know there's a lot of energy transmissions besides. I'll let you share more of what we're going to do today. And yeah, excited to be here.
That's really exciting. Yeah, I wanted to talk about our work and attune everyone to the magic that we love to multiply in this season. I know for me, I always do the winter fairies and I do different versions of those classes, whether it's connected to the winter realms, which are amazing places we can visit, the fairies and elves and like snowy, icy caves and sleigh rides and connecting with the animals and the reindeer and really opening our heart to that and then seeing that mirrored in our world, even if it's just in art or wrapping paper. Like I always like to talk about urban fairying, which I mean is even if you live in a city, you can connect with that magical fairy energy through parks, through plants, through arts, that we can always bring that energy into our life to bless our season with peace. And what does that mean? Maybe you'll have more magical ideas, like craft ideas that will bring you more peace, or ways to entertain the children or the family members that visit. You'll kind of intuitively know the right things to do. So I like to connect with all of those things and also kind of meditate with, and I know Camilla's getting really into the tree magic and activating me a lot, but really connecting with those trees too, like the blue spruce and all the evergreen trees and the magic of the Christmas tree or the fairy trees. I love to connect with that. And I wanted to also bring up the magic that you bring yearly is that you love to do your winter solstice events and talk about like what you feel coming through with that, the wisdom of an energy of winter solstice and the beings that come through for you during that time.
Yeah. And I just feel like I want to mention this, the blue energy. It feels like when we've worked with the winter and the crystalline energy before in different winters, um, and then when we were talking recently, that came in again, that beautiful blue ray energy. And there's something about crystalline and the snow and that transformative power. Like when something freezes, it changes the structure of it and then it thaws again. And so I feel like we're kind of in an interesting transformative period that's um, part of that crystalline, the freezing and the thawing energy, and that blue ray energy just feels like it wants to come in. I know it's a little aside, but I just want to mention that.
Yeah, beautiful. No, I feel it. And I think when you mention these things, we totally feel it. And it was
Yeah.
interesting because I was feeling the diamond energy with the snow and the frost that it comes in and how we can slow down when we see frost or snow and really connect with the meaning of it and the energy of it because it always feels very expansive. And I feel like as a child, we were all more open to that. I remember being so excited about the snow as a kid, and like you would just feel that Earth had a different energy when the snow was on it. And I have all these like happy memories of the snow days as a kid and like sleigh riding and like looking at the snowy forests and feeling so excited about nature, but I definitely was a fairy child, always, playing on the earth and just my mom was always like put us outside kind of, and I'm glad I grew up like that because I still have that great appreciation for nature and getting out there. And then as my intuitive abilities grew to connect more consciously with the elementals all around, the trees, the gnomes, the fairies has been such a gift that I love to both of us love to inspire that in others. And I wanted to talk about simple ways that people can bring that into their life just through intentions. Like any time of the year, I like to go on my fairy adventure walks where I connect with the trees, the fairies, the gnomes of the neighborhood. And I kind of look at, okay, who's in this garden? Who's in this park? And can I say hello to this tree and find the personality or name of the tree? And I know during one of Camilla's fairy classes, I think last year, I really connected with the mother tree of my block because I'm in like a complex. And so this tree was like, I'm the mother tree. And it's very decorative, like compared to the other trees. Like its branches have little shapes that are pretty, and it does have this feminine energy. And I feel like the more I work with that, my connection deepened. And I think the more we practice connecting with these beings, we trust that connection and the messages get louder. Because since she came to me during that meditation, now every time I pass her, she waves and asks for things, and I just drop little crystals there sometimes, but I just kind of visit her and celebrate her more. And that's been such a gift because it adds this almost missing part of life for me. Like I feel it in my body that I need to connect with the magical realms and the nature realms. And that is such a gift. And I do love to do that during the winter. I wanted to talk about how when I first started doing the winter fairy meditation, it we had a big snowstorm and it was almost like intuitively, I think I felt the snow coming. And so the snow realms open then with all those winter fairies. So it's kind of fun to connect with that. And with that, I also feel the polar bear, the white owl, the white bunnies, white foxes, like all of these amazing, I call them fairy winter animal spirit guides that come through because the woodland creatures, squirrels, of course, are very connected to the fairies. So I just really want to talk about that earth magic and how we can connect with that in our yard, in our neighborhood, and really activate that magic of winter and that energy of winter. Because I do feel that white diamond energy like wrapping around us.
Yeah, I mean, we are in this place of really connecting more with that crystalline solar energy body, right? And recognizing we're not just this physical, but to feed and nourish our light bodies in this, especially as we go through this really quick awakening process. And so I think that beautiful experience of nature, and even if you can't go out in nature, like you can meditate with it. Sometimes it's cold and we don't want to go outside, depending on where you live. Some places we don't have snow so much. So whatever version of snow of the winter, but that season is like a really beautiful time for the tree connections, I think. I feel sometimes they really come forward, I think, because in the summer and spring and such, you have much more of the flowers and all the growth and, of all of nature. But then as um, some of the deciduous trees lose their leaves, or sort of that letting go and hibernation of those kind of trees, but then the evergreens, um, they'll continue and they kind of help us connect with like some of the ways, yeah, they connect is through helping us understand community, like understanding that trees, even on their own, like we can connect with them, one tree, but they're all connected in their root system. And a lot of the evergreens really emphasize that they are connected to each other in the earth, and they want to help us learn that, how connected we are with each other and with the trees and nature, of course. So winter is a really beautiful time to, yeah, get to know the trees. And you can look for a mother tree, like ask, where is the mother tree nearby? And and walk around and just use your intuition, practice opening to what tree seems to be like the nurturer, is how I see the mother tree. Is a tree that kind of serves to nurture a place, an area, a neighborhood that holds a lot of wisdom and kindness and compassion, and um, yeah, that can kind of hold space as the heart center for a place. And it may be that if you have a lot of land, that you have a mother tree there. Um, and there's also other kinds of trees. You might connect with guardian trees that are protectors. I have a tree near me that's like a guardian that kind of helps protect the neighborhood and keep the energy good. Um, there's other trees that yeah, that kind of serve different purposes, like hold space at portals. Like they kind of create portals where a tree is grown if you have a powerful tree. there's like portal energy there, right? So there's a can be a strong field of energy. So it may be very healing to just be with that tree. And one of the simple things that I like to do is just using my left hand, just place that on the tree bark, the trunk, and just ask or open to connect my heart, connect my energy with the tree, like let the flow back and forth, that reciprocity, that exchange of energy. You can even imagine like a infinity symbol, and that kind of connects you, merges you with the energy of the tree. And it's not always that you're going to get like words, like the tree will talk. I think that's something, and you can speak on this if you want, Andrea, like people expect they want the tree to talk back or have a conversation or, you know, but to recognize that the trees, often it's just an energy exchange where they are filling us with their beautiful peace, their calming frequency, their groundedness. They're helping you ground just by standing next to them. So there's a lot of things going on. They're recharging our energy too. So there's a lot of like active, energetic things happening, even if we aren't aware or know or have the communication style that we do as humans. And then just to bring the elementals into that, like no tree is on its own, right? Like no, like the community, they're all connected, but also all trees and all forests and all lands have teeming amount of invisible, the unseen realms, right? That are the gnomes and the fairies and the elves and the nature spirits and the dragons, and they're very connected. Like I had these journeys where I was shown like the trees and their origins, and they were not alone. Like they cannot exist without this whole collection of beings. And particularly the oak, which is a big um, symbol of this time of year from now through um, the next solstice, or moving from the winter solstice to the summer, is the oak, moving from the holly to the oak in the Celtic tradition. But that oaks are really known for huge amounts of support that they give, not animals and birds and mistletoe and lichen and moss, but also all these unseen realms. So when you're connecting with trees, yeah, consider connecting with the spirit there, or the gnomes that are around, or the dragons that are in the trees, and just open your imagination. So those are like a few ideas for like taking like nature walks, connecting with the trees in the winter. And I think, of course, like look behind us, it's such a representative of the winter season is the snowy trees, like going in a snowy forest if you can find one, and just like be in that peace. It's so quiet and peaceful in that winter time, snow energy. And I think we all can use that, like winter forest bathing, maybe they call it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm in the urban area. I noticed that where when I started connecting with the trees and the fairies, I would find these little places, like a collection of like four blue spruce behind the supermarket, and they would reach out to me and be like, "Hi, I'm here." And it's kind of like in the modern world, we ignore the magical aura and the voices of these trees. And I do want to talk about the tree voices because I feel like throughout the years, from practicing listening, it is totally a refined listening. But I'm a listener though. I'm good at hearing, fairies, angels, whoever I'm talking to. And I remember so many times throughout the years where the trees have spoken to me and their voice is low and it's like very low and slow. But a lot of them were wisdom keepers and they watch the history, right? And they know so much, like if you think of like how old is this tree, is older than me, it has wisdom like a grandfather. And I've had experiences like that with the trees where they'll be like, oh, it's just this, like they give you advice like a grandparent, and they're just kind of rooted and have seen so much and survived. like watching the ages of Earth, right? The ancient trees, and they watch the seasons. So it is interesting to connect with that. And with that said, the birds are coming in, especially with winter, like the red cardinal, watching the birds and when they appear, the white owl. And that magic. And I know I've had winter journeys where the owl will take me to places that humans could never go, right? But we can go in our spirit bodies, places we can't access deep in nature, like snowy forests and caves and things. So I wanted to talk about winter elemental journeying because I love to do that. I'm a big fan of journeying. And I feel like when I take time to do that and I practice that, it also mirrors in the world. Like I'll go on a journey and maybe see this beautiful snowy land with the owls, and I'll get all this medicine, energy medicine, and then I'll see it in a picture somewhere or a movie or something in the world, or maybe like the trees get louder when I go outside. So it's interesting to think about the different dimensions, like the astral travel or going in between the dimensions and the 3D, and how we're anchoring that in. And I know a lot of wisdom's been coming to me lately through books and things, how why did the veil get created? And it's lifting now. Why did the veil between us and the fairies and the elementals and the gnomes even get created? And as we, you know, choose to mend that, what magic is coming back to our lives, to the land, and also the magical part of us that might be elemental is reawakening, and then that gives us our joy back. And it gives us this passion, like, oh yeah, I'm connected to nature and creativity and all these beautiful things. And that's why I think connecting with the elementals during winter is so important, because whether it's the holiday things or there's less socialization, we can get lonely or bored. And I know for me, the fairies have been a great source of inspiration of like, I can journey with them, I can craft with them, that we're never alone, right? Because we have all these invisible friends, and they help us with the creativity and the visioning during that alone time, which can happen, during the holidays or during the winter season. So I wanted to activate that a little, and then also just inspire everyone
Mm.
to take that time to, what I like to do is create a treasure map with the gnomes, with the fairies, where I ask them, like, what do you guys is like, what advice do you have? What do you want me to do right now? Like in my home, with my creativity, with my spirituality, like, what do you, and then they'll give lots of ideas. Like maybe they'll call you to a specific space in nature or a specific craft project, or even making a gift for someone. And then each activity seems to open up more magic. And so it's kind of fun to do that during the holidays. Ask them to inspire you with your activities, with your crafts, with your schedule, and then follow that magical elemental thread almost that's like weaves everything together, right? Our environment, the nature around us, the people, the objects. And I think that's what's great about the fairies and the gnomes, is that they can bring that spirituality into the physical, right? Because as a spiritual person, we could be like, oh, I just have to go over to the spiritual realms for peace. But the elementals really help us bring it into the physical, like connecting with the trees and things, and then bringing those things in our house so that we can bridge that gap and feel connected, not feel like they're two separate worlds, right? The matrix, the serious matrix versus the magical fairyland. How do we bring them together? And that's been a great theme, especially during this season.
I love this conversation. So good. There's so many threads here. But I know we're both like major journeyers and teach a lot of that, take people on, and we'll get to do that, I think, today. Um, yeah, just the power. Like, I know there's such a huge sense of longing among people for something more, like remembering something inside, and also that sense of belonging. And I do find this work and doing the journeying, working with these different elementals, um, whether it's to have like direction for things like you're talking about, or also just to receive. Like sometimes we just, yeah, I'm going to connect in. I have, a unicorn I work with, and He kind of helps me with my business stuff, and I have a council of different beings that help with that. So sometimes just like sinking in and sitting with them, listening, yeah, journeying and seeing kind of what kind of pictures, what kind of ideas. And I find like for the place we're in right now, especially the winter time, is the deeper we can go, like within ourselves. And this was mirrored in messages from the gnomes and the fairies and Gaia. Like the deeper we can go within ourselves and look at the magic that's within, see those visions or feel it or um, sense it or like how or hear it, whatever way you perceive. Um, that's going to be exponentially expansive for all your creativity and what you bring forward and do in the world. And like that integration you're talking about of we're learning to bring things together. But the more we can like go deep within and use that journey, use our imagination, use that magic, use that time in nature, to keep us in peace, right? In balance and happy and feeling of belonging. But it's from that place where I think we birth that new sense of self, the new pathway, new ideas, activities. Um, but I also wanted to share a little story because you said something about like asking a tree. And I used to live outside of Hood River in an orchard, um, beautiful organic orchard overlooking Mount Hood, Y East. And there was a circle of trees there, like this patch of grass, and then surrounded by like, I don't know, 20 or 30 trees all in a circle. And so when I was having a hard time, I would just go up there and I'd stand in the middle of the circle and say, okay, tree council, this is what's going on. And then I would say out loud to the trees, like, da 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 da. And, whether it was sad and I was crying or I was like frustrated or whatever, I would just let it out and give it to the trees and then and listen. And like you say, Andrea, like I kind of don't always feel like a blah, 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 blah back, it is very low and slow and deep. And sometimes it's not even like words. It's just sort of a shift of energy of like an opening and maybe a releasing. But there's sort of this magical process with nature that's, I think, for us to understand that it's different than communicating with a human and to trust that, like trust that sometimes people think they're not connecting or they're not connected and they're so freaking connected that they're like in it. They don't even recognize how connected they are. And so recognizing one that you may be so connected with nature, the trees, that you're like merging with them, or um, you're perceiving them in different ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really inspirational. And especially with the holidays, because I know it can bring up grief or miss family members, and to connect with the trees and the elementals as your family. Already I feel like, oh, I'm not alone. Like the trees are looking out for me, or they can give guidance, and like the world is my family. The nature is my family. And also I could feel the visceral feelings in my body, how we have to reconnect with Earth. And I do feel that the trees really hold the voice of Gaia, which is something that we're remembering to listen to too. And I wanted to mention that too, that one. I know I've been practicing that throughout the years, that I need to listen to Earth and also listen to the wisdom of Earth, whether Earth is having, winter or earthquakes or something, like Gaia, what are you doing? And what's going on? And and connecting with that and the core of Gaia felt really important, and linked to the trees and our bodies, how our bodies like want to have that open nervous system to nature and to be connected to the land, and how it feels so, for me, invigorating, and how maybe that got closed off. Like I grew up a lot in nature, but I know as an adult, I have to consciously seek that, like make dates to like, I'm going to walk and open my feet chakras, or same thing with the fairies and the trees and the gnomes, or I'm going to make dates with them where I'm going to draw them, or I'm going to journal with them. I'm going to listen to them because I'm going to make that pattern or habit in my brain that they are important and that I need to connect with them in my life. And I wanted to mention that because that's a practical thing I do, whether it's daily, a little bit, or weekly on my off day, where I say, I'm going to make a date with the fairies. I'm going to make a date with nature, and I'm going to listen and I'm going to journey. And I just know that I always feel better. I've always awakened the magic, and that's like also part of my life purpose, and it works through my art because I am a fairy tale artist and I make oracle decks and things, and that the art also solidifies the visions and helps me connect too. So it's kind of understanding the ways that we like to connect, and I feel that the gnomes and fairies always open up our version of creativity, whatever that is for you. And that creativity is an expansive energy. I think of creative play as little children, like you're just so immersed, and that we need that as adults, like be immersed in projects and building things, working with our hands. And I think that the gnomes really bring that in and help us to know ourselves, like to know ourselves and be like, yeah, I need to work with my hands, or yeah, I need to live in nature or visit nature, and really knowing how to fill our own cups with play and joy and
Yes.
earth connection. Yeah, so good. So good. And I just did want to mention, I didn't want to forget to mention that I love making gem essences, pine essences during this time of year, and I make them into sprays, flower essences, elixirs, simmer pots, teas. These are great ways to ask the fairies to infuse those things with magic. And I might have sent you one of them once. I made like a blue spruce
Yeah.
peppermint like Christmas activation spray. And I remember making that with the fairies, and it really helped me get into the joy of the and the flow of the season, and I was really excited about that. If you're someone that works with that way, like for me it was really exciting. Like I knew, and I mean I've been making essences for a while, and I know Camilla's attuned me a lot to that, but I'll feel that real guidance. Like, oh, the fairies will come in and be like, this is the ingredients, do this, and send it to these people. And my energy goes up like that from the essence. So it's like, it's a lot about that, the positive side of being an empath. I feel the fairies really
Yeah.
talk about that because they feel the love, they feel the joy, they follow the energy, and they help us to do that too. And maybe we forgot that because as kids, we were probably these little compasses of joy, like running towards the toys and the fun and outside. And we want to like reawaken some version of that as an adult, right? I know I
Yeah.
carry that forth as an adult.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting because when you were talking, I was just feeling my vibration. And even before you said it, it was like, "Woo." And so might be a good time to talk, like, right? The veils are gone in a lot of ways, and we're getting used to the fact that we have access to all these things. But also I had this message from the fairy and elemental realms, like they are multidimensional too. So, yeah, there may be some nature spirits that kind of operate more in a certain realm of the nature frequencies of the earth. But then there's a whole bunch of different ones and different kinds that are multidimensional. And then, of course, the she, which is the fairy race, which they're kind of more like ascended master energies. So, any kind of connection that people can have, and I love that you gave suggestions for things. Um, yeah, I do that too, where I'll um, either make dates or like, I really want to tune into the gnomes, and I'll take my little gnome statues and I'll put them out and, sit with them or journal or do a journey. But all those things are beautiful ways to kind of open up those connections and lift your frequency, because I think so much about it is moving into more joy and peace and balance And I've heard a lot of people say lately they've been taking news breaks, like after the election, like they're not looking at any news anymore, and they're only looking at things that are positive. And so I think, even if you make a small shift and dedicate a certain amount of time every day or every week to nature time, to time to be open to the unseen realms of the elementals and fairies. But the other thing I just want to touch on, and maybe if you want to share anything about this too, Andrea, is the whole issue of like trust. I realize that's been coming up a lot in my patron community. And someone was like, oh, it's always about trust. And I realize for a lot of us who are maybe hybrid humans, like you were talking about, that we may be part fairy, part elf, part gnome, part dragon, like we're kind of the fairy ambassadors. I think a lot of you watching this probably are empaths, starseeds, sensitives. And so we're here to bring through the voice of nature, to be representatives of that, to hold that. But there's a strong need to learn how to trust in our own experiences in a culture that has not taught us that as children. The culture has not taught us that. The algorithms have not taught us that. There's a lot of inundation, if that's the right word, of energies that are nothing to do with us and our true nature. Um, and that's something the fairy queen would always say, like, um, be true to your nature, you know, be authentic, find the truth. And so I think a big piece for all of us is learning how to trust. And this for me, like I would do all these journeys and have these amazing experiences. I'm like, is that true? Did I just make that up? And then I got to this point and I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I made it up. It doesn't matter if it's my imagination or pretend or whatever. It's like what came to me in this moment. And so I'm going to believe it. I'm going to call it true. And from that point on, it just, my trust just, opened up so much more to be able to recognize, like, yeah, I'm just going to trust what I experience and trust there are fairies all around, there are gnomes, there are the magical world. And that's like the doorway in, is in my sense, right? Like trusting, being vulnerable to maybe even looking at like, where do you not trust? Or even for the karma, right? We've both had to do lots and lots of work about old soul karma and lifetimes where the magic was shut down repeatedly, right? Probably most people have that kind of experience if you're a magical person, of a lot of shutting down and oppression, or of women being a woman. So anyway, that issue of trust just wanted to be spoken on.
Yeah. That's a good point, especially with people who are in different places on their spiritual journey of awakening, because I know
Yeah.
for me, um, when I started really communicating with the fairies, I would go back and forth with the shame. And that was the most criticism I received. And it was more also in the media or in the algorithm, as you say, it was more branded as children's play. Even when I had events, people didn't understand the grown-up aspect of it and what we understand when we understand what shamanism is, or being an astral traveler or a realm walker, is that those are realms, other dimensions. And so it makes sense the more we learn, is like, oh, as a seer,
Mm.
I'm a seer since I'm little. And luckily, I had supportive parents and I had education on this since I'm little. I could go places. And so when I started consciously doing that, we go where our spiritual lineage is. And my Celtic lineage is a lot of fairy energy. And I feel like I'm coming home and I trust the fairies. And it was interesting because with some more gnome activations coming up that Camilla definitely inspired in her Patreon, um, I felt that shame again. It's like, no, gnomes are like t toys. No one's gonna take me seriously. But all of a sudden, these gnomes were helping me so much. And so it really is, I think, my conclusion, because I went through a lot of those little dark nights about being a fairy shaman and being a seer and being weird, is that it's leadership. It's divine feminine leadership almost, that we're holding the place that yes, it's okay to have a gnome spirit guide. It's okay to see fairies and talk to them. And I think the fairies were even helping me with that this morning because I'm in a new city for like 3 years and I started making more connections and they want me to come teach classes, but I was kind of on the fence. I was like, a new city, I got to present myself to new people. And I was a month ago, I was like, no, not doing it again. I don't want to be uncomfortable anymore, right? And then the fairies really came through this morning, and it's like it doesn't matter because you are holding the space for the voice of the elementals and those that sense but don't have connection, other people that say, yes, it's okay, let's go journey with the fairies. And yes, I see them too. And I remember, and I've been doing fairy classes in person even for years, and I remember doing one at this bookstore and I had like 12 people there and guys were there and they were older men were there and like we see fairy lights in our garden and it was like you'd be surprised when you held that space I didn't have to convince any of them. They all came because they already had fairy experiences. So it's like kind of more normal than you think, but we have that bullying, that spiritual like bullying almost. So as a leader, it's important, I find, to hold that space of this is what I believe is true, and I have the best intentions, and it feels good to me to be the voice of them and hold space for them because I know it brings good things to my life and it's a forgotten. Uh,
Yeah.
we have to reclaim it, right? Or re-remember it. And what is amazing when that happens is they'll start to bring things like books and movies, and you'll realize that it's hidden all over pop culture. And I always talk about that, how all of these connections are hidden in the movies and the books. And I wanted to mention the Tomty Christmas book. There's famous Tomty Christmas books with illustrations, Astrid Lindgren from Europe. And it always shows the Tomty, which it kind of gets classified as a gnome, but it's a separate race and they're always the house elves. And a lot of times they appear during the holidays, and they've been super popular right now in art and toys and things. But I remember finding those first books, and it was amazing how, like, oh, well, these illustrators are drawing these fairy tales, but they're also part of the culture of that country. And so it's kind of fun to look at that too. And I also wanted to bring up Iceland. And there's a whole legend of the 13 Christmas lads and I've been fascinated by that. And supposedly in the houses, people have these like 13 dwarves, and there's a whole like Christmas legend around that. So it's kind of interesting also to look throughout the world and culture, all these stories about these magical beings. And I was excited that that story had found me this year because I never had heard of it, and I was like excited to learn about that. Because I do feel the gnomes and the dwarves and those energies want to come through. And also wanted to mention the Yeti and how the Yeti uh, is kind of the guardian of sacred winter places. I found like crystal caves and like mountain. They're kind of connected to Shangri-La in the Himalayas. So I always connect with them also with guardians of like really sacred nature places. And so as
Mhm.
you start to gain that trust with the elementals, they'll lead you to healing places. That's what I've noticed. Even in my neighborhood, which is more urban, they've guided me to like special places in the forest, like special vortexes where you go and you align. And so on a greater level and an astral plane, we can travel all over the world to those sacred winter places, which is something I've kind of awakened to the past few years. That's been kind of exciting, like, icy caves and ice waterfalls and like snowy peaks and these places that the fairies celebrate because they know, right? They know where the ley lines meet and list the special healing places. And I think I'm always naturally attracted to those places like sacred forests and waterfalls and circles of holly trees and things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too that the gnomes, when I was working with them um years ago, they just had such interesting things to share, but they also told me um, that Santa Claus is a gnome. I always thought that was funny to hear that from the gnomes. Santa is a gnome. But also all those stories about Amanita and the reindeer and the kind of shamanic history, for those who don't know that, to look that up. It's fascinating, like why we go down the chimney and the colors of red and white. And it's interesting, we're both wearing red and white. The magic of this time of year and those kind of shamanic origins of some of that. But I also wanted to mention, I loved what you're talking about leadership, because for those of you who are into astrology, you may know Molly McCord. She's pretty popular on YouTube and does really beautiful astrology work. She did a video maybe a few weeks back or so, and it was the rise of the earth worker. And she talked about all the astrology and the planetary alignments that are creating kind of bringing up the importance of people that work with the earth, the good workers, the light workers, the elemental, the voices, like this work. And I've always felt this is so important. And I know, as being a light worker as well, like those who work very much in the spiritual realms need to focus as well in the earth realms. Otherwise, there's sort of an imbalance. And also for those, working a lot with the earth realms, and I've gotten this from the trees too, like look at the cosmos, like look at the big picture of the spirit realms. So I think whichever direction you tend to favor, the elementals, Gaia and the cosmos will kind of balance you out in that way. And yeah, bring more of the cosmic energy for you if you're very grounded in the earth. And if you're, out in the spirit realm more, it's going to ground you more into the earth plane, whatever we need. And that's where the integration comes. I was thinking you were talking about essences, like the flower essences I always talk about. Um, the fusion between the upper and the lower world, like the heaven and earth and the personality in the body, or spirit in the body, like that need for integration. And I think we're all experiencing a lot of the integration more and more, like you talked about at the beginning, integrating the magical and the spirit world with our physical reality. Like I know a lot of people talk about that too, like coming back from the Fairy Congress event or coming back from festivals where you're around all this love energy and this beauty and this community, and then you come home. And so we're learning how to hold that inside ourselves 24/7. Like you are that loving community, you are that magic fairy event. Like when you get to that point, and just from experience, like I have been able to integrate that, so I don't feel like different when I leave an event and come home. I feel the same. And so I think that's kind of a goal we can, or something that to know you can experience, like if you have these beautiful, loving experiences or people in your life, even that you can hold that energy and be that all the time. um yeah, you're a magical being, and that's your birthright, and that's who you are. And to trust you can have that, you can choose that every moment, that you want to be in the magic, that you want to be connected, that you want to talk to the gnomes or be with the fairies. Like I was realizing too, like a lot of especially being empathic and sensitive, like we both are, and probably a lot of you, there's sort of some challenges to that, but then the great gift. But to recognize the importance of like holding our own energy, choosing what it is we want. Because if we don't choose, then some algorithm will, or some other energy will come in and kind of encompass us, because we're sensitives, right? And empaths, and we can feel all that. So it's really important to like be standing like a tree, in our truth and wisdom and like our choice. And Yeah. So the gnomes are kind of like, yeah. They're like,
It'd be a lot of energy of be yourself, your unique voice.
yeah.
Like you're needed as a unique frequency. You're not needed to conform. And I know I follow that path throughout my life where if I conform too much, eventually I snap back to me.
Yeah.
It's more and more deeper going into your own individuality that like, yeah, this is me and I have to be me. And I think the more life experience we have, we notice those pitfalls and it's like, oh, I'm starting to deny myself or even feel bad about myself. Like that's something to think about too. If you go near uh, non-magical people or non-fairy believers or other institutions or groups, how to be okay, not always feel like, oh, I'm weird compared to these people. That's something I'm working on is that neutrality that as a fairykin, as someone who of the fairy lineage, that's my spiritual lineage, that it's okay to be me and it's okay that people aren't like me and I can be near those people, but then I go back to my clan also and like just respecting that there's all different levels of people on the planet of spiritual awakening and it's okay to be ourself, and
Yeah.
we're unique. You could be like me, I'm really good at math, but I'm also like super psychic and into other things. And it's like have our own unique blueprint. And it's a lot of like, I think the gnomes are bringing in a lot of energy of belonging and celebrating the self-esteem. Like, I would like to see the next few days what they're bringing in and journal with them because I think they're bringing in a lot of like practical skills about the way we relate to other people and how we feel about ourselves, right? Because you could feel really good about yourself when you're alone doing all your spiritual stuff, but then maybe you go out in groups and feel that you have to hide that or you feel weird or I had that throughout the years like, oh, are they looking at my social media? Are they looking at my website, right?
Yeah.
Versus like and then we go to the extreme of like, I don't care, whatever. But then I find a neutrality of being neutral. Like some people like me, some people might get not like, but I can just be okay. I don't have to get angry or I don't have to be filled with shame. I can be neutral. So it's really good to work on that. So I wanted to do a little gnome journey, but I know you wanted to share an attunement. So before we
Yeah.
wrap up, would you like, do you have,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I can see them showing up. So I'm like, this is a perfect time.
yeah.
Yeah. So just get comfortable. I'm just going to bring through some energy for all of us from the gnomes. They're with us here now. They've been with us the whole call. And um, yeah, they're like part of this summit leaders, right? So I'm seeing them with their little wheelbarrows and they're bringing forward all these gems. There's kind of helping us uncover like those beautiful gems and treasures and colors and um, things that are within us that maybe we're not holding strong enough or recognizing or connecting with. And so I invite you just to go in and connect with your own gnome the way I like to do this. You can imagine love and gratitude flowing like a rainbow from your heart to your gnome spirit guide, your elemental guide. Whether you see them or not, that's fine. Just open to that connection. They'll receive this rainbow energy. And I'm seeing them super happy and giggling to receive that. And then allow that energy of the gnome to be sent back to you from the gnome. And so you're receiving now that rainbow energy. And then use your imagination, pretend that you can see or experience your personal gnome. And whether that's in a very visual way or just a feeling or a knowing or sensing, just be open to the gnomes. And know this gnome can be your guide. And the gnome is like holding your hand. Um, so if you feel alone, you feel like you need a buddy, someone to support you as you move forward, or just to hang out with, go in the forest with, you can hold hands with your gnome. This is like gnomematch.com, right? If you want, yeah, a partner. And they wish to um, take you to like these power spots, these magical spots in nature. So the next time you're ready to go outside on a walk, just hold hands with your gnome and follow where the gnome leads you. Let them guide you. So you just kind of let go and let yourself be taken, over to the grass or to the woods or wherever you live, to the place, to the power spot, to the place the gnome wants to show you. And then the gnome also is asking that you be open to expressing your joy, maybe doing some dancing around a tree. They have just some different adventures for you. Let's put it that way. So if you'd like to open to them and their adventures, please do. They're excited to work with you, to take you places, take you on to have experiences, see if there's anything else. They're saying they just really want to help us like live life fuller and stronger. It's sort of that choice thing too. Like, what do you choose in this moment? Do you want to sit around, kind of depressed or not feeling that good? Or do you want to make a choice to go out and have an experience with a gnome? It's like hum and skip, play, joy. Like their gnomes have constantly been telling me this, like we're all too serious as humans. So I think introducing you to your gnome, giving you a little exercise to do with them, and to trust, yeah, what they tell you. I'm seeing them all with you. So I'm seeing all of you have your gnome with you. They're ready to play, they're ready to work, they're ready to do projects or whatever it is you're into. So, yeah, trust it. Let us know how it goes too.
Super cute. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go for your gnome introduction and moving forward. And I'm excited to do your journey, Andrea.
Totally. Yeah. I just want to tell you that they were so very helpful. I think I got a gnome life coach and he was showing me
Mm,
just this and he was teaching me and teaching me everything, like how to manifest, but also like core themes like self-respect and like managing problems. Like he was just coming in like so wise, like and like a counselor gnome. So I guess we got what we need.
yeah.
Or very parental
Well,
almost.
that's good to mention that too, because my experience with them is, yeah, they can do that, and a lot of us do need to have more joy, but they're also part of my business council, and they're the ones I know we talk about this, Andrea, but to share, like they're always telling me like what colors make my website, what should I focus on in my work, and they were like, be a mentor. um, what is the best, like they really have, because they're earth elementals, they're very much connected with earthly experiences and how we as humans can like create a life, and physical actual experiences can expand by connecting and asking them questions. And I've had a ton of students over the years that meet their gnomes when they work with me, and they're like really surprised and kind of like, I wasn't expecting that. And some of them just like to joke with the person. Others are like giving them all these ideas and things to do with their garden and da 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 da. So yeah, I love that you got one that's like for that reason. Like they have
Yeah. Yeah. And
different
they had a
purposes. Yeah. So if you need help with something specific, like you can ask your gnome, like, hey, I need help with this. What do you say? Yeah.
yeah. And they're about evolution. They were talking to me a lot
Yeah.
about evolution, and they said that uh they would help me with manifesting that, I can intend something and even take action, but if I don't energetically align and almost physically align vibrationally, That's why it's not following through. And that's just part of the process. You might not have been ready, but he's talking about like, you know, the fullness of alignment and embodiment with your wishes. So
Mm,
there's something like that with like anchoring and
interesting.
owning the vibration of
Okay.
our manifesting
Mm.
wishes.
Like in your body, you're talking
In
like
our body, yeah, it
embodying
felt
it.
like in the spine and like the lower chakras, like to really feel and embody and choose, right? I choose
Yeah.
this with passion, right? Yes, I want this totally. I'm jumping into it full on body, mind, and spirit versus like a little like, oh yeah, I want that or I want to
Yeah.
create that versus like
Okay. Yeah.
owning it physically because they're
The
so
fullness. Yeah.
yeah, and they like stomp on the earth and they're just like strong, powerful intention, physical power behind things connected to
Yeah. Okay.
will, will. Yeah, so some kind of teaching like that they were bringing in for me.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah, and like the importance, because I know a lot of us might carry like little tweaks in our nervous system or our physical body or trauma or whatever that's like, oh, you can't have that, or that's not okay to want that, or to be bold or whatever. So, like, really, it's maybe like a process, right? To really work with the body to embody it.
mhm. Yeah, it was like conviction, will, and like total choosing. And that also, we have to give ourselves grace because that's about timing. Sometimes we're not ready for that final physical will to push through until the timing is right. So some of it
Yeah.
happens naturally. But yeah, that was a great download. And I'm excited
Yeah.
to continue to work with them in their little lairs because they live in like tree houses and little places where they invite me for tea. So I'm
Oh
excited.
my God, that's like Merlin and the Fairy Queen. Merlin always invites me into the tree for tea
Yeah.
and a crystal ball reading and stuff.
So cute. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little gnome, but an animal and fairy journey. And so the vision I had, if you guys want to close your eyes and connect, we're gonna just kind of open our heart to this winter wonderland. And we're just kind of instantly transported to this winter wonderland. And the gnomes are waiting to take us on a sleigh ride. And so they want us to open our heart to our surroundings, look at the beautiful snowy landscape, the trees, the sky, the hills of snow. And then we see this beautiful sled, and maybe there's reindeer and wolves, white wolves, or sleigh dogs pulling that sleigh, and we jump in that sleigh, and the gnomes say, "Come with us," and they're taking us on a beautiful heart-opening tour of their winter lands and all the magical places that they want to attune us to. So as we open our heart and we jump in the sleigh, and as the sleigh moves forward, our heart opens more and more. And our mind just kind of relaxes, softens, drifts away as we start to experience this journey with our heart, with our soul. And we see everything twinkling. The snow is twinkling and glistening, sparkling. And then we all of a sudden, fairies start to appear from thin air like they've always been there. And we're starting to move forward past these beautiful winter scenes, frozen waterfalls, crystal ice caves, and you see all of the winter elementals waving, the yeti, we see white unicorns running alongside us. We see all of the gnomes jumping up and down, inviting us to visit their winter towns and celebrate with them. And we're going up and down these hills, seeing beautiful visions. And maybe night starts to come upon us, and we look up into the sky and we see Aurora Borealis. And then we arrive at a beautiful winter castle with all types of elemental friends, and they are celebrating the season in all different ways. And there's so much joy and excitement. And it's like we're coming home to these kindred guides. Notice who approaches you. Maybe there's a winter fairy king and queen. Maybe there's a dragon, some unicorns, maybe some animals are coming through, some birds, owls, wolves. bunnies, squirrels, deer. Pay attention to the woodland creatures. Definitely the winter stag is coming through, and they are all friends, and they are all here to celebrate with you and inspire you and open your heart to all the magic, all the creativity, and all of the connection. You see the beautiful sky above you with stars twinkling, and you feel all of the fairies blessing you, the winter fairy godmothers coming in. And the fairies have buckets of gifts and lots of information. So just receive from them, whoever wants to approach you, whatever they want to bring to you. This is a time for you to receive. You are safe, and this is your kindred fairy celebration. So as you're here, you're just kind of walking around and notice if anything in this area jumps out to you as you walk around the castle and enter the castle. Notice if there's any activities or things that jump out to you. Notice if there's any cookies and cakes and things. Notice if there's any art or crafts. Notice if anything jumps out, because those are special messages for you. Special fairy winter totems that you're going to bring back with you. Also, symbols, colors, herbs, flowers, trees, just opening to all of that beautiful magic, and just bundling all that up into your heart, and knowing that this can be reflected in your world. You wave goodbye to all your elemental friends, and you know that you will be back to visit this kingdom in meditation and dream time. And you're also going to kind of bring that energy into your world. So you're waving goodbye, going back on the sled with your gnome guide, back to the present moment, to your human life, but bringing in lots of beautiful elemental magic and heart-centered connection with the earth, with the season, and with all of your beautiful guides. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I
that's
just saw like
fun.
a holly crown right when I finished. They're like, don't forget the crown gifts.
Yeah, you're off
So,
with the holly crown on
yeah.
myself.
But that's exciting. I feel like those are time released like attunements also, where later I'll
Yeah.
send messages around me. And so I'm excited to take this sacred time together to activate this magic. And so I want to do one final like blessing and activation of elemental winter magic for everybody, just kind of setting that intention, sending that out to everyone with an open heart, that our season is blessed and that we receive all that magic, all that connection that we're looking for, and that we stay connected to that. Do you have any final messages?
Yeah. Well, I just want to share a couple of things that came through for me on that. I just felt so much heart opening. It was beautiful. And it was kind of interesting. The gift that I was given was a watch, but it was actually a watch that operates on fairy time. So it gives you the opportunity to expand and contract time and play with time. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And also I saw my grandmother who passed away when I was 15. She was knitting. She did knit in her life. So that was lovely to see her there in fairy wonderland. So thank you for that. It was beautiful, Andrea.
That's really beautiful. And
Um,
she must have had fairy lineage.
yeah, I think so.
Would you like to share anything about your upcoming classes or how people can work with you and
Um,
find you? Camilla,
yeah, sure.
a podcast. And
Yeah, I've got a lot of different things, a patron community podcast. I'm taking people on a Corn Mother pilgrimage to Oaxaca in March. So that trip still has openings. So a lot of delightful ways to connect and mentor with me. So you can find out all about that at camillablossom.com. And we'll have the information below so that you can, um, yeah, find your way to connect. So it's been
And
such
you
a
have an
pleasure.
upcoming winter class, right? A winter solstice.
Yeah, and then yeah, thanks for reminding me. On the winter solstice, I am doing an online event. It's free for a patron community, and then others can sign up on Eventbrite. And that is a winter solstice ceremony on the 21st. And it's going to be a journey into the sacred void of creation. So it's like going to that really deep journey place of where the origins of everything is. And what I'm discovering more working with the void energy is we can bring like the old into that and give it back to the void and give those old things that energy back, and it can be transformed and transmuted and create new, bring use that energy to create um, and birth new, and whether that's our own selves or our own projects or art or whatever it is that wants to birth through us. It's an opportunity to kind of go into the deep winter solstice energy together. So you can find out about it on events at my website as well. And what about you, Andrea? What do you have coming up? You always have such great things.
I have lots of fairy classes in my library, in my store on my website. I love to do winter collections, different seasons and things. I also offer fairy readings. I have my holiday specials for mentoring and sessions open right now. You can also join my Facebook group. I have a free Facebook group, Angel Fairy Healing with Andrea Dombecki, where I share lots of fun stuff. And you can also join my newsletter to keep updated on new fairy classes and things. And I have a fairy Christmas coloring book and lots of fairy tales that I illustrate and write on Amazon. Because I love to draw the fairies and tell their stories. So I'm super excited to be here today with Camilla, and yeah, that's our oracle deck. Sacred Spirits of Gaia.
Yeah, this was a project we did together. Andrew did the art and I wrote it, Sacred Spirits of Gaia. And just briefly, these cards fell out at the beginning. And so I just wanted to mention the willow tree is another one to really tune into this season. And the air dragon, who's been coming in a lot these last years. So think about your breath and exchange that with the air dragon. And the air dragon can help refresh your energy, bring in um, new consciousness through the breath.
Beautiful. Yeah, you always teach me about the air dragons, and they're about the mind, right? Too, like,
Oh yeah, the mind, yeah, works with
yeah,
mental and
I know.
clearing, because I know that's a lot of um, issues. But yeah, Andrea's done beautiful card decks and books and so many amazing things. So definitely check her work out. And
I
she can support you too, help you if you
yeah,
are doing projects
I
as
help
an
people
graphic artist. And
I help people publish oracle decks and picture books and things. I
yeah.
would like to show my Enchanted Fairy Heart oracle deck. This is my original deck that's almost 10 years old now, but I did get a few cards for us, and the first one was Crystal Fairy, and that feels important
Oh my God, that's perfect.
since the selenite was coming up. So it's like what crystals want to come through for this season? It does
Mhm.
feel like the selenite, the citrine, like the gold
Oh,
energy, the white energy, yeah,
the
the diamond
diamond.
energy, like the Herkimer diamonds. So
Yeah.
connecting with intuitively what the clear quartz, what crystals want to come through, and maybe travel to the winter crystal fairy and ice caves with those fairies, and or make some crystal gifts for people, or give crystals. I'm always giving crystals as gifts. The next card is Heart Fairy. Great theme today because we're working a lot with the gnomes, opening up our heart to nature, to creativity. And this is all about opening your heart to your environment,
Oh,
being with
that's
our
perfect.
yeah. And the last card is Fairy Shaman. Take a journey to the
Oh
fairy.
my gosh.
So Yeah, reminding everybody to stay connected to the magic, stay connected to the fairies, and enjoy your season. Enjoy the winter. All right, bye.